Let us then kickstart our first activity, the Spiritist Youth United Nations Forum. Let us welcome Bia Lopes, representing its Secretary General, together with João Zago, who will help bridge the forum to Spiritist youth in other parts of the world, connected to us by internet. Bia Lopes is from the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Danbury in Connecticut and the host of Kardec Radio for Teens. João Zago is an active member of the Divine Light Spiritist Center in New Jersey.
So the parents can stay for the beginning part, and then you'll leave in the beginning, just so you can see what we're going to be doing while you're doing your workshops. So, welcome to Planet Christ. Here on Planet Christ, we strive to help others and ourselves become better individuals through our knowledge of Spiritism. You are all assembled here today at the United Nations headquarters of Planet Christ because you are a unique type of youth. You are Spiritist youth, and Spiritist youth have the power to change the world. At today's forum, we're going to be creating an international agreement of action for Spiritist youth. By this, we are going to get certain topics, discuss them, and figure out Spiritist solutions that we can implement and we can start. And together, we're going to create an agreement for us all to follow. So, and of course, before we begin, it's important to keep in mind the spirit mentors that we always have guiding us, because we're never alone, and we get this inspiration for all of our wonderful ideas and these events through our spirit mentors. So one thing that we're going to get to do today is we're going to actually pick which spirit mentor we want to be like the main one inspiring us today for our event. So over here are our posters, and these are the spirit mentors that are all with us right now, but we can pick one main one to help us, inspire us on this event. So if you can all take a few seconds to look at that and kind of pick which one you would want to be inspiring you, and then we'll do a vote. Can you guys see that, or do you want me to read them? Yes, you can see it. All right, so I think our clear spirit mentor inspiring us for today, for our event, is Jesus. But of course, all these others are also here, so we look to all of them for our inspiration when we're talking about these topics that we'll see and coming up with solutions. So it's important to keep them in mind and ask them for inspiration and thank them for their inspiration and guidance. So now we're going to pick which topics we're going to work on. We're going to discuss. So these are our 10 topics, and if you can all see them, I'd like everyone to take a few moments to pick the top 3 that you want to talk about. And while you guys are doing that, the parents can go to their parent workshop. So the way the forum's going to work is that we have these 10 topics prepared, but we're going to only talk about 3 of them. And 3 of them we're going to talk about the problems with it, and then we're going to try and come up with solutions. So each person has 3 votes. And then the top 3 topics with the most votes are the ones we're going to be talking about. So does everyone kind of know which ones? Okay. Can you raise your hands for bullying? Raise it high, because she's counting over there, so she needs to see over there. Suicide? Drug use? Smoking and drinking? gender identity, sustainability, politics, gender equality, technology, weapons, okay, so before we start with that, a few rules just before we start. The harmony code that you all signed rather this morning or last night, all those rules still apply. And also, when we're speaking, it's going to be a debate, so you all will be speaking. So when you want to speak, just raise your hands. And then once you start speaking, you'll get 2 minutes. And Leandro over here, he has little cards that he'll show up. If you go a little over 2 minutes, it's fine, but just so we have an idea. And then you can pass it, and then if someone else answers, or if no one else is raising their hand, you can keep talking. Use kind and respectable language, and we are talking about pretty serious topics, so just respect everyone's opinions, because people are going to have different opinions. And yeah, no cell phones, which I think you all gave in already. So does anyone have any questions before we start? Okay. So the 3 topics we're going to be talking about are suicide, politics, and gender equality. So let's get to the first one. Okay. Gender equality. So can we, so this is just some background we gave on this. So can we like popcorn read? Do you guys know how to popcorn read? Like if someone says it, someone reads one part, like one bullet, and then we keep going? Thanks.
Gender inequality is a characteristic of most societies with male, on average, better positioned in social, economic, and political hierarchies.
Gender exists only in the physical organization, and since spirits can become either, there are no difference between them in this respect. Consequently, they should enjoy the same rights. The Spirit's book.
Anyone else?
The law of equality states we are all always equal in the eyes of our Creator, God. The belief in the superiority of one group over another is a violation of God's law and the negation of the basic truth that we are all brothers and sisters.
It just gives some percentages of the actual gender gap. So the global one, it's hard to see, it says 64%. Economic and opportunity, I don't know what number that is. Educational gender gap, we see that it's at 85. Health and political empowerment is only 23%. So those are just like some ways that you see how it's not equal, how these numbers are all over the place and way off. So does anyone have anywhere they want to start with this discussion?
Just a question about what is the ideal number, 50% or 100%?
100% would be they're all equal. Like, completely equal. So, like, political is the last one, and that's only 23% equal. So, education, we're getting there, it's at 95. Health is getting there at 95, but, 94. But, like, political is still at 23. Economic is at 54. So, does anyone want to start the discussion with how this affects our daily lives? How this affects our daily lives, or how you see this in your life, even if it's not your personal experience, but maybe something you see it affect other people.
We have microphones.
Thank you.
Thank you. In my personal experience, I don't see many female business owners, and that's definitely something that we should encourage more of. You know, women and girls being involved in the economic marketplace, creating products, you know, just moving our lives forward through in any way they can, really.
My personal experience, I work as a server in a restaurant in Orlando, and on average, we get less tips. It's something that I've been noticing for a while now. So especially, some people prefer males instead of females, and they do feel like since males are head of families, that's my assumption, that they on average get a little bit more than us. And also kind of certain jokes with women that are not so normal with men, and that to kind of draw a boundary at work sometimes is difficult too, because it's kind of given that it's okay to do with us. So that's kind of a personal experience.
I live in Brazil and I work as a lawyer there. When I was doing my internship, there was me and an older guy. He was like 40, I was 22. And all the people who went there, they need help, but they always choose the guy. Always, especially the 4 and up to 40 years old people, they always choose the guy. Even though the guy always helped, always asked for my help, they always want him because they assumed that he was better than me, that he was smarter or more efficient, I don't know. And a lot of people thought that I was the secretary. They didn't assume that I was a lawyer too, so it was pretty difficult for me that time. But I still have this, especially because I'm small, so they always assuming that I'm not a lawyer or that I'm a kid, and they don't take me too serious because of this. So I really think we should try to change this a little bit.
Going back to what you said about the jokes that some men make, people think it's okay, like most men think it's okay, but it's not okay. Because the way society has been like developing, obviously men were more in control, and right, like it's I mean, a lot of men, yeah, it's developing now, like in society, that men are starting to feel like more like equality has gotten better, but it's still not okay because some men are still, like boys are still growing up to be like learning that this stuff is okay to do to women and it's okay to do to your sister, and it's not.
So we kind of already started diving into it, but how exactly do you...
We have so we have Felicia from South Africa, and she also wanted to share her experience.
Can you... Oh, by the way, we have people on Skype from all over the place, like from South Africa.
That's what I'm doing.
So yeah, Joel's on Skype with them, so when they also have something to add, they will through Skype.
Felicia's from South Africa, and she wanted to share from personal experience that in South Africa things still need to change a lot. Here, she says, and I quote, "The men are in control of most things, and women are still the minority. They are improving in some areas, but it's a stage where women still have less rights than men, especially mothers. Fathers have more rights in the country than mothers, to the point where if husbands or fathers are abusive, this gets ignored.
So that's also something to keep in mind in different places. Like here, we're all in the United States, but in other places like South Africa. So which we kind of already talked about, but what are some of the major problems we have with gender equality? Does anyone know a few? Okay. Yeah, salary.
Political.
And the other?
Victim blaming?
Victim blaming. Right, so we have a lot of problems that we see in gender equality. So now, our task today is we want to figure out how can we use Spiritism and, as us youth, in place something to change this. What could we follow to change this, or what could we do to sort of change this gender gap and have more gender equality?
So I think there are two main ideas that I have right now. One is right there in the board when saying, there's nothing in the spiritual constitution of men and women that make them different. Right? Spiritually, in the eyes of God are all the same. So getting that kind of understanding out there is one thing, right? But I think the other side of things I want to say is we cannot make that too theoretical, as just a theory, just a truth, just an idea. I think there's some practical things that we could be doing, maybe in our own Spiritist movement, encouraging and inviting, giving opportunity to both men and women more equally. And in places where we see gaps, maybe do some kind of more proactive initiative. So I am from a tech sector, and I have been involved last year in a tech innovation challenge where only groups of women participated. And in technology, there's a huge gap between men and women. In computer science classes, it's not 50-50, there's much more men and women. So in this kind of STEM program, they try to invite girls in high school to participate more, those who like STEM, right?
Yeah, so going off of what Noah said, does anyone have any ideas of how we can do those little things to get?
Thank you. So like Naur was saying, I believe it starts in education, but not only in high school or college. We need to start making sure that girls and boys feel okay pursuing what interests them, starting from pre-K, kindergarten, daycare. We can't put them in boxes where we say, girls can only play with dolls, boys can only play with action figures. We need to start allowing them to pursue their own interests. We need to introduce them to everything and let them choose. We need to start incorporating, like you said, in computer science technology at these younger ages in a constructive way, rather than them just staring at an iPad. And there's so many pathways through education which we can change the norm and allow people to feel comfortable pursuing what it is that they'd like to do.
I'm a child educator, and I always ask my kids, they are like 4 to 5, that can girls do it and can boys do that? And some of them, especially boys, they say, oh yeah, girls can't play soccer, girls can't do it, or I can read this book, it's pink. And I say, okay, the book is pink, but it's a book. There's no such thing like books for girls and books for boys. So I try to change their minds in this way, like, oh, everything is for everybody, like play things is for kids, not for boys or girls. So, and I always ask the parents to do it at home, like, please don't tell to your kid that something's for boys, something's for girls, because I think it starts there. When the kids start to see that girls and boys are different, and especially when the boy thinks he's better than the girl, that's the problem. So we have to change the little ones. This way we are going to change the whole generation.
Hi. So I think one big thing to do is look to ourselves within. For example, me as a man, I would like something very important for me is to think, why is I different like women? Why I'm doing it? Where does this feeling come from? Why, if I'm looking different like that, why am I doing that? But where does this energy come from? And the same for women, that sometimes they need to stand up and say, why is this person treating me like that? And maybe I should stand up, maybe he's wrong, or maybe I should stand up and say things that I really want to say to the person. So look within her, where is the energy coming from? This is what I'm saying.
Like she was saying before, how we have to like tell the kids that not one thing is for girls and one thing is for boys, but it's like no matter what you tell the little kids, it's just like the way the world is made and like how society is telling you. It's like no matter, like your parents could be like the most like generous people and say, treat everyone equal, everyone is the same, everyone is your equal. But it's like we're growing up in a world where women aren't allowed to do certain things. Not because there's a rule against it, but there's like a norm that says they shouldn't do that, or it's like frowned upon, and they go and do it, and then they get like lashed back, and they're like, oh, you can't do that because you're a girl, or you're short, or you're not a man, you're not superior, and then it kind of like pushes them back into a box, and then kind of like put down, and they're not excited to do things they want to do because they're just like, oh, I'm gonna do it, but everyone's just gonna say, you can't do that, you can't do that, and that kind of prevents them from being who they want to be.
Yeah, going back on what you're saying, I feel like society right now, the way, I don't know if you girls agree with me, but we're going through a breakthrough in a way, in all ages right now, in society, and I feel that it's natural for that to happen because if you push something really hard, obviously that's going to come up. But I feel like as spiritists, we can kind of make that in a way where we don't make ourselves vulnerable. Well, and now I talk to the girls, but personal, like we don't sell ourselves short, that we understand that there are social norms, but we can discuss them and we can make better and more intelligent choices. Not necessarily of once upon a time we couldn't show a certain part of our bodies because people would say things or do things and now we want to go and do whatever we want. But how does that affect me as a person? And I don't necessarily need to use myself as a weapon to show men how things work, but we can value each other at the center, the Spiritist center. We can study law of equality together, and girls and boys, men and women, and fight in a more productive way. I feel that we are exploring sexuality in all different areas, but I feel like Spiritist, we can do that differently, more productively, in my opinion.
And just before you go, real quick, also to keep in mind, so as we are seeing all these great solutions, but what specifically do you think we can do as Spiritist youth? Like one thing, how she was saying to not to hold yourself strong and be strong, and a way we can spread that is by leading by example. If we do it, we can show our friends to do it, or show other people at our sanctum to do it too. So kind of think of ways that, okay, this is a general solution, but how can we, us sitting here, also do that? Over there, yeah.
So I agree with you guys. We should all grow up to be something better. But I think that we can start with that by being role models, and I think that's the change that we need to do.
Definitely.
I'm currently in a middle college, which is we do high school and middle school. And because of that, I was choosing to do a council where the city and the county and the school city choose youth to make changes. So now I'm a role model for my school. And I think that we should all achieve for that, to be something better, to show them, look, I'm here, I can do it. Why can't you? I'm a woman. I'm in a council. I'm about to tell someone how to solve something. You can do that too. And I think that's the change that we need. And it's not just religious, but also be like, if we are all here, we gathered, women can also gather, we can also change those things. And it does start with family, because as we grow up, we take those values. And as we take those values, we change things. Look now, some of us grew up with our dads saying, you can do this, so go out and do it. And now women can do so many more things. And I think that's what we should do. Keep going what the past already started and take it to a whole new level as young people.
I think that one of the things, like the first quote that says up there where it says gender exists only in the physical organization, I think we need to realize that not only do women encounter problems when it comes to gender inequality, but it also happens with men. Like when happens certain things, like Juno said, we were talking about abusive relationships. It also happens where men get abused, like not only physically, but emotionally and things like that. And then men go out and share their stories and they're put down and said, that's not possible. Come on, she's a girl, she shouldn't be able to hurt you and things like that, but it's like possible. And we need to realize that men and women are like emotionally possibly, like they could, like the man could be bigger than the woman, but like emotionally they could be weak. And they need to realize that just because they look different, they're the same. And they need to understand that we need to treat everyone the same.
Behind you. Gabby has a question.
Yeah, I agree because masculinity is like, it was always put on men and boys. And it was always like, if you didn't have masculinity, you were like, in society, you were picked on, you were bullied. It was like, for men, I feel like it's not as much, but it's just as important to be like talked about because some men are very sensitive, some aren't. They're just different because we're human beings. We're all different. We're not going to be pushed into a box because some does.
Juno, did you have something? Oh, okay. This one's as Juno, not as Skype.
I just wanted to, I guess, throw 2 cents in that may help to, who knows. We learned that the spirit has no gender, which, if we sort of think about, gender inequality would be sort of a material problem. And it's a problem we can overcome as we overcome this, as we get better as humanity and overcoming just materialism in general. Because these things begin to matter the more we care about what happens here now versus what happens in the spirit world. Those are my 2 cents.
So a couple of things that we started coming up with. So we said like be a role model. So start by doing it yourself, and then we can show that to other people. So keep coming with those kinds of ideas.
Yeah. So to complement that in that direction, I think many people said that starting with the young children is a good idea. So we could help in our Spiritist centers by volunteering in the educational team to teach kids, right? And plan classrooms or plan topics about that, like about gender equality, and maybe games and maybe stories that they show how girls and boys can, spiritually they're the same.
And even though we are teens, we know at our centers, the younger kids look up to us because you are like the older of those kids at your center. Or if they aren't like, many kids at your center, then you're inspiring like people at other centers to do it because you're like doing it by yourself or you can work with the little kids. So yeah, definitely helping the young ones or helping like younger siblings?
I think it's really important in the world now more than ever. We always hear networking, right? Social networks all the time. And I think that's a key part that's missing. Often we just kind of assume, oh, well, men have these clubs, like for example, like the L Club, where they all go and they talk and they meet each other and then they set things up corporately, whatever kind of facet in their career, where women can have the same opportunities. And I know that maybe we feel as if there's less women in certain professions, especially in engineering and more STEM professions. Well, then write those emails, send those letters to these women that you may admire in these fields, and I am 100% sure that they'd be more than willing to open themselves up to you. Something that we've instituted in our own church is that we'll have professional days, and so we'll have people within our members within our congregation who represent different fields, and then the children are allowed to come to their booths and talk about what is it that you do, how did you get there. And so just providing these more, as you were saying, providing more opportunities even within our own institutions where people can talk about career goals and how, yes, it can be really difficult to get there, but being able to see that finish line sometimes makes it that much easier to get there.
Okay, so to sum it up, yeah, you're gonna last comment.
And like you said, it starts when we're young girls. Like, I noticed when I was little, I used to watch a lot of Disney movies and how a man always saved the day. So it would...
I mean, we even see that now with like the movie Frozen, right? Now instead of a man saving the day, it's like her sister. It's a girl, right? So we're getting there. But so basically, just to wrap it up, because we're running out of time for this topic, and we have to move on to our another topic. So does everyone agree that we should take action ourselves and be a role model to others? Yes, do we agree to that? And we should start showing younger kids as well that you can do whatever you want with no restrictions of male or female. And we can start in our centers or like at home, at school, wherever. And like she was saying also, to implement things in our centers where we're all together, and we can start in a little group and then it'll keep growing. Yes, does anyone else have any other things that we touched to add to that?
Yeah, I think that in our daily basis,
I think that, we should stop being so competitive from one girl to another. We should like back ourselves more, like, oh, you did it, it was so good, instead of, oh, you did it, I'm gonna do it better. So we are too competitive. I think we increase this in our society.
So that's another thing we can do to support each other and be a community of friends, of Spiritist youth, and support each other instead of being against each other. Any final comments before we move on to the next?
Felicia has one.
Oh, Felicia on South Africa Skype.
Felicia from South Africa. There. She would also just like to remind us to see each other as spiritual beings first, because this existence is only temporary, and eventually these things won't matter anymore.
And as a spiritual point of view, our spirit reincarnates as male and female all the time. So if we're putting these restrictions on it now, it's very material, because we were man or we were female, we were both at some point. So those restrictions are really only physical and not, so yeah, also keep that reminder that it's about our spirit, not our physical material body. Alright? So now we're going to move on to the next one, which was, let's see which one's next. Politics. Okay. Can we popcorn read again? Anyone? There.
Politicians make decisions that affect nearly every aspect of your life.
Just keep passing it.
Public opinion plays a role in policy making.
Policy might take the form of law or regulation, where the set of all of the laws and regulations that govern a particular issue and problem. Policy is made on behalf of the public.
The participation of young people in institutional political processes is relatively low when compared to older citizens across the globe.
Spiritist perspective. Place social aspirations and Christian Spiritist ideals in clear and well-defined positions without mistaking the interests of Caesar with the duties of the Lord, to the Lord.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Fulfill the duties of citizen and voter, choosing the candidates for the elected post according to the dictates of your own conscience, but without entangling yourself in the fantastical web of the law.
Avoid lectures and discussions of a political nature in doctrinal institutions, not forgetting that the service of the gospel is the essential task.
So, same way we did the last one, does anyone want to start off with how we see this in our lives, politics, or mostly like politics and maybe in your center or something related to Spiritism? Yeah. Anything just to start it off?
I think one aspect of politics that we have been seeing a lot recently is that how the majority-minority dynamics play out. So if you're in the minority, you feel that your voice is not being heard, right? And you may feel like you are impotent to do anything. You can't do anything. And I think just on the left side here is saying, well, maybe we can play a role in public opinion, in participation, right? And on the other side, I think the right side, we see what the guiding principles should be, right? So how do we align our politics with our core values, our Spiritist values, right? And without mixing them, right? We should not be using our Spiritist center meetings to preach a vote for this candidate or that candidate, but it should guide and be the foundation of our political participation outside of the Spiritist center, in society, in community. So I don't know. I think the main point, to answer your question, I think it's your voice not being heard, that aspect.
Anyone else? Any problems? Or we know there's a lot of problems and debates in politics, but what can we do as Spiritist youth to change that? To change some part of that?
As Spiritist youth, I believe we can kind of steer the conversation, starting with amongst ourselves, and then kind of trying to branch it out towards the other communities that we exist in. Of what is the moral character of these candidates that we may vote for or we may not vote for? Which virtues inform the policies that they advocate for? And even I think the end goal may be kind of trying to elect a Christian Spiritist candidate ourselves. Trying to get a cohesion amongst the group, trying to campaign for such a candidate in non-Spiritist sectors of the population, and kind of showing everyone that not to be holier than thou about it, but that our virtues really do reign supreme in the aspect of our doctrine kind of puts things in very clear words of how you should conduct yourself and what are the better virtues to chase after. And if we were to find someone who would be willing to have a political office who holds these ideals, they wouldn't even have to be Spiritists, but if they hold these ideals and virtues, then, and we were able to elect them, we could show the world that we're moving in the right direction and we can keep the ball rolling.
Gabby, and then Adriana, and then
Natalia. I think that when it comes to talking about politics, as youth, we're not like, whenever we talk about it, we're kind of like not listened to because we're young. And I know that, like, personally, I talk about politics a lot with my friends, which is weird, but we do. And then whenever we like post about it somewhere, we talk about it. So I think we need to realize that just because we're young doesn't mean we don't have a voice. And we need to be more open on the topic and kind of put our own opinions into it.
Yeah.
In Brazil, things are a little bit different. Now the country is divided, like the people who is right and people who are left. I don't know how to say it here because it's a little bit different, but it's like capitalism, and the other part, it's not that we are socialist, of course we aren't. It's like we just want real rights, equality for everyone, like opportunity for everyone, and stop this lot of privileges, but the other part doesn't. And talking about Christian people, the religious bancade, they want to take out rights. They don't want to like put Jesus. That's completely the opposite. They think that homosexuals, there shouldn't be any right. They shouldn't have any right. So they don't look like Christians. They just call themselves like this. So I can vote for someone like this.
Yeah.
So that's very difficult for us to be like, oh, he's a Christian because he called themselves. That's just a labeling. It's not like what they really are. So it's very difficult for us to think about it.
I think it's really
No, go for it.
I think it's really important that it's on, but it's not working. I talk really loud, so I'm fine. I think it's just really important that, of course, let's be involved in the political atmosphere. Let's keep our heads on, right? But I think as Spiritists, like we were discussing, this is the in-between, right? Our real world is the spirit world. And so I think it's most important to care for our neighbors. So they can make laws and they can cut budgets and they can do things that we see as maybe unfair or we understand as morally incorrect, right? Because the laws of the earth don't pertain to us. And so I think it's important that we then take action locally, because they may say, oh, you know what, we're going to stop funding breakfasts and lunches for children in the schools, but if we take it upon ourselves as Spiritists to group together in institutions and to feed the homeless like us, we're going to do beautifully tomorrow, then who can stop us, right? No one. And so I think it's important, yes, vote, yes, stay aware, yes, lobby, especially in the U.S. where we do have, fortunately, more rights as citizens. I think it's also really important to keep our heads on that this will change. Nothing happens by accident, and I think we're living through a difficult time right now in the U.S. politically, but I think it was also necessary to bring to our own eyes the conscience of our nation. And so as Spiritists, it's just important to keep our own values and not to just lose ourselves in the arguments, lose ourselves in these conversations, because we'll always think differently. But instead, do the proactive, find those solutions to the problems, not just get lost in sort of the noise that we hear all around us every day.
Right, so that's a really good point that if we, just us, we can't change what's happening in like the United States government or the Brazil government. We can't change that ourselves, but we can do our own things and do little groups like she's saying and take our matters upon our own hands, even if it's not directly changing the main government.
I
believe that also there's a responsibility that we have as people in this planet right now. And it is true, I agree with you, we don't need to like lose ourselves and just start discussing things without being productive. But there's also things that we need to do. Like there's a very low participation of youth in politics here in the U.S. because we're not obligated to vote. And we had a demonstration of that with the last presidential election. A lot of the youth that didn't go to vote, that made a big difference for the current person in the government. So I believe that at the center, being like very direct of things that we can do, like on Monday, that I can do with the kids. I am an educator of preteens, so I believe that I can keep an eye on the elections in Orlando, in Florida, in our state over there. There's a lot of elections that go and we don't even know that they're happening in a state level, in a city level. And also like understanding our responsibility of things that are happening. At the center we have politics. We have directors, we have areas, and we do have, sometimes we have this idea of politics being something, but it's just organization. It's like we need to organize in a certain way. And I feel that if we practice at the Spiritist Center, being a little bit more active and proactive and responsible for the things that we have, then we can definitely be, as we said before, be role models for other people that sometimes think it's boring or not cool to talk about politics, but it's part of our lives. We need to be responsible.
So I think that we should, as you're saying, we don't have an active voice in the government. Something that I think most of us don't know is every time that there's a voting, there's a public meeting that goes on. And what that's done for is so that the city, if they're voting on something like lunches, as you said, there's not enough kids asking for free lunch, so maybe we should stop putting money into that. So if they're going to vote into that, you normally have a public meeting to see what the public thinks. And what I think we should do is we should all attend that, but we should also work as Spiritists with our center, with the politics. Like most of us, for activities that we do with the Spirit Center, we need to go to the, okay, I forgot the name of it, but we still need to work with the government for certain things that we need to do. And I think that with that, we should also go to them and be like, hey, we're Spiritists. We know that we're not supposed to talk about religion at school, but we want to talk about them as doing service for the public. Like we want to go in and talk to them about giving food away, or voting for, or talking or giving their opinions on what the next vote is. And I think that's the way to go.
Right, so that's kind of also what we talked about with gender equality, of taking action ourselves. And you can't just sit here and say, oh, nothing's happening, and just sit here. You have to stand up and go to public speaking and get your voice heard, or spread the word yourself. So yeah, so definitely taking action yourself.
When it comes to like opening people's eyes on religion and spirits, like I know that at my school, during in history class, was one example, we had to write an essay on a certain religion, and we were able to pick any religion we wanted. Like most people would be like Christianity, Buddhism, and things like that, but I wanted to do Spiritism. I know that I was going to do that, and then I went and asked my teacher about it, and he had no idea what it was. So I stayed after class and I explained it to him, and he thought it was really cool. And he said that if it would be okay if, like, when I finished the essay, if he could keep it and share it with other classes, because he thought it was really cool. So I wrote the essay and I got a good grade, and he kept it. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of like open people's eyes in religion and kind of share the ideas about it. And I know that whenever I tell people like my religion, they're always really like, they always want to know more about it. And I like telling people about it because I think it's cool myself and it's like different. But like also like being a spiritist comes with a lot of responsibility because you have a voice when it comes to sharing. about the religion. And it's kind of like when it comes to politics, it's like debating. Like we kind of like when we debate, we spend time like trying to convince people to come to our side instead of listening to everybody's opinions. And that's kind of where like all of the disagreements happen. And there's like no equality and there's no like peace. And that's why there's so many wars, because instead of like listening to everybody, we just only listen to ourselves. And instead of like accepting other people's ideas, we just want everyone to think what we think.
And that's even with Spiritism. You don't have to impose Spiritism and force people to believe that, but we can say, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I learned, what I'm learning, and go from there. And like you said, they might, it's not like they change and they're like, oh, I'm going to completely be a Spiritist now, but they find it interesting and they look more into it, and that's already a start.
So, Evan raised a lot of good points in regards to religion and politics, and that many other groups have not performed well in injecting their religion into politics. And I think with Spiritism, we don't necessarily have to inject our religion into politics. You know, there's really, what can the idea of reincarnation do in politics at this point? You know, it's not much. It's a very kind of advanced idea to fit into the current political landscape. And so I think where we should start is just to talk about, you know, these moral values, these virtues that we all accept, such as charity, service, compassion, unconditional love, etc., to kind of try our best to steer the conversation that way, so that politics and politicians is viewed under a new light by our generation, by future generations, as we start to, you know, evaluate the policies and the politicians themselves under this lens of, are they, you know, are they morally advanced enough to be making these kinds of widespread decisions for all of the people? You know, are they being selfish about the policies? Are they being selfless and compassionate about the policies? And I think that's where Spiritism can kind of help us as Spiritist youths to kind of, we can be the leaders in that movement towards this new perspective on politics.
Any other suggestions for what we can do as Spiritist youth? So we had a couple to actually go out and say something, right, and to voice our opinion in places and be heard, to spread Spiritism, even if we're not saying, oh, this is Spiritism, to say, oh, but what about the values, what about this and that? And even if we're not forcing Spiritism on people, but saying, oh, this is how I think, and explaining it. How else can Spiritism help change?
I think it's important to pray as well. In a nation where we live in, and it's a democratic republic, right, we choose the people to represent us. We don't directly have a voice. I think it's important just to pray for the illumination of the minds of the people we've selected, and just, right, hope, and always send that positivity. I think we have a world that tends to cry and to sort of, the media loves that negativity. That's right, what gets the ratings. But it's important as Spiritists to remember that thought is energy, that prayer is power, and that if we pray for their minds to be illuminated, for them to do their job to their best ability, that we are making a difference as Spiritists.
Yeah. So there's another thing we can do is also focus sometimes on the positive. Also, it's obviously important to see the negative and see what's happening, but we completely neglect the good things that are happening. So we should also see the good things that are happening and follow the lead in those other types of things. Any other comments?
So I was thinking, looking at this poster here, right, that the earth has a governor. Like Jesus is the governor, and he has all the spirits helping them. But I think there is a desire or an aspiration that our politicians or people that drive policy, they have this kind of qualifications, right? They're loving and wise, so it's more like a merit-based system. To the extent that we can live by that, and that we can be the model or be the change one for the world, like Gandhi used to say, right? So think policy as global, but actions local. So if the centers can engage in local actions, organize. I love the definition of the policy is just a way to organize things. That was brilliant, right? So if we can organize our center or our youth groups, and we can, start thinking, what is the world, the ideal world I would like to have then, and start it now. Don't wait for things to change. So how can I imagine my center being now? That will be this kind of, governance that Jesus governs the planet, right? And starting local action that you can do. I think that's a good approach. Right?
Can anyone sum up the things that we kind of talked about what we can do as Spiritist youth? Can someone sum up a few of the things we said?
So we spoke about analyzing the morality of the people who we vote for. We spoke about staying informed and keeping our Spiritist values when making these choices. We spoke about where politics lack. We fill in the gaps with our own moral choices and actions to be heard in practical ways and to sort of keep our heads up.
Any other specific actions you guys think we should take? Good. To sum it up, yes, should we move on to the next one? So the next one is suicide, right? Yes. So I'm doing that one. Suicide. So can we read again and can we do like here?
Background. Every day in the U.S., approximately 14 young people between the ages of 15 through 24 die at their own hands.
You can read the green one.
On suicide every 1 hour and 40 minutes for ages 15 through 25. 4.
Among young people aged 15 to 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death, behind accidents and homicide.
40% of American high school students reported having seriously considered suicide during the previous 12 months.
Can you pass it in front of you?
Do we have the right to take our own life? Only God has the right.
Kardec asks the spirits, what is to be thought of those who resort to suicide in order to escape from the disappointment of this world?
So, can bring you can keep going if you want. Whichever way. Go ahead. You keep going.
Ignorant spirits who do not have the courage to endure the disappointments. God helps those who suffer bravely and not those who lack energy and courage. The tribulations of life and trials of atonements. Blessed are those who endure them without complaining, for they will be rewarded.
All right. Does anyone want to start off the conversation of how maybe this has affected you, related to your life. Have you seen this? Process this. If you have any comments based off any of these statistics or what the Spirit's book has to say.
So I have, my friends have experienced some issues with suicide because they're not happy with their lives, and some of my friends have tried to commit suicide. And I think it's just that they have a lack of people of understanding, because they believe in God, and they believe in all the stuff, but they don't believe that if they were gone, it would affect too much, because Spiritism is not spread so much. I feel like if they knew more about what would happen, because after death, not people don't know what's going to happen. It's really common, and I feel like if they knew more about that, or what would happen if you did kill yourself, it would have definitely stopped.
I think that we should address first what makes you want to commit suicide instead of how it affects you. And I think that we should start that by acknowledging that most of the people that commit suicide are young people. People who don't know how to make their own decisions or look up to someone. And an issue that I see in my school, because I do have friends that are seriously suicidal, and I do have friends that cut themselves, is the fact that when they do go up to their parents and say, hey, mom, dad, I'm depressed and I want to die because of this and this and that, I think that the issue is that we don't always acknowledge that pain, because most of us look at them and be like, you want to kill yourself because of a boy? You're stupid. And most of us make fun of them, and most of us judge them for being quote unquote weak. I think that we should understand that pain is pain for everyone. Emotional pain hurts just as much as physical pain. And something that one of my teachers said is, what is serious for you and what causes pain for you might be different for someone else. And I think that's what we need to put out there, is that if you do feel those thoughts, you do have people to back you up. And if you feel that pain, you do have people to help you with that pain. Because this far, that's all I see is people look at you and they judge you, and very few of them try to help you. Even those who try to help you sometimes also judge you in a way that you understand that you're being judged, and you just want to do it more because it's the only thing that you can rely on.
Hello? Yeah. So I completely agree, with my sister over here, that I think our main goal should not be to judge those who feel as if they want to commit suicide. It's a very sad act to commit. I have a cousin in Brazil who once attempted to commit suicide, and I could see in her face, the desperation, the pain, the complete lack of resources and support that she felt were in her corner. Although we have a big family and we're all very religious, she didn't feel like she could turn to anyone to help her. And it does stem from this very deep emotional pain, which some say is even worse than physical pain, because as we can see in the youth of today, they self-harm to cover the emotional pain with physical pain. And I think our first course of action should be to try our best to understand these people, and to understand their pain, where they're coming from. I have a friend who works for a suicide prevention hotline, And he told me that when people call him, and they, most people would assume that you would tell them, don't kill yourself, it's wrong, don't do it. But, obviously they already know all those things, or else they wouldn't be calling a prevention hotline. He said the most important aspect is to kind of mirror their emotions back to them and allow them to feel that they are being understood, that someone understands their pain, what they're going through, and that in a way lessens it for them. And I just want to finish it off by saying that this type of compassion is at the forefront of Spiritism, and we should always look to practice this compassion and understanding with everyone, but especially with those who are depressed, who feel as if suicide is their only option. We need to come after them and help them, and hopefully we can do a good enough job.
Juno first, and then, so just up here first.
So this is me, not the bishop. I had a friend who tried and succeeded in committing suicide, and it was a very impactful experience for all of us who were left behind. And it was very tricky, because this is a person you would never expect, because they did not openly express their pain, they did not openly share their troubles, or if they did, the Spiritist friend wasn't who they were sharing it with. So there was some understandable level of guilt after the fact. And this is something I've said before, but making ourselves always as available as possible, or at least letting people know right off the bat through our actions, through our personality, that we are reliable to them in these moments, that we are points of support for them, is important. Because if they don't know they can rely on you, they cannot rely on you. And of course, it's not your job to save somebody from themselves. But what you can do to help is merit, always.
I agree, because most of the time people who do try or do commit suicide is because they feel like it's the lack of communication that they feel is being present. Because if they feel like they don't have communication, then there's no one to understand how they feel, and that suicide is the only way to get out of their depression. And I know a friend who's suicidal, and her mother feels that this whole depression that she has is just a phase, and she'll get over it. But she doesn't understand. I don't think she understands that her daughter is actually going through something very emotional, and you shouldn't be ashamed for how you feel, because people mostly do feel shame, so they also don't want to talk about it, especially with parents, because they feel that they're for you, or they feel that they will, like, it's awkward to talk about it as well.
Yeah, and another thing to bring up at that point is that to let people know that you're there to help them, but that doesn't mean only when they're going through a problem, be like, okay, I'm here to help you. You can tell people all the time, like, just like, oh, hey, like, I love you if you ever want to talk. Like, you can tell everyone all the time, just so that when they are going through something, they know they can go to you. You don't have to just tell them when they're going through a problem. Now we're in.
So I like Juno's suggestion, and in Australia there's a suicide prevention campaign called Are You OK Day. So it's a national day where people get trained to how to talk to anyone, and they're allowed to come to any stranger and say, are you okay today? On that day, right? So I think we could take a lesson from there, and just as we interact with our friends, right, or family members, just ask them, are you okay? But really be interested in the answer. Because sometimes all you want to hear is, I'm okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's also past couple years, I was a resident advisor within a dormitory. And this year we had a really bad scare with one of the members. And none of the other sisters in the house had a clue. And when we did have the scare, everyone was shooken, but what was wonderful was their response after the fact. No one, then pressured that person or was like, the constant questions, the constant inquiries, but more so just there to support and there to make sure that they were involving for more in events and circumstances. And I think that often, especially in our teenage years, we think that we're tattling on someone or, oh, well, they told me that in confidence. And so with things like this, something as precious as a life, if it's too much for you to handle, which I would argue if I was at your younger ages, and even now at the age of 25, seek out another advisor, someone that you trust, someone that you know will help, especially in cases where you know that, as Sophia had mentioned, parents often think, oh, well, this is just a phase, or everyone feels like that at that age. No, if you really feel that tick, that something more that this person may be going through, please look for some forward guidance, because this can be too heavy for our shoulders to burden, right? Especially at the younger age, it's a lot emotionally. So never be afraid to reach out to another person, even if it's just to their guardian angels right at night.
I feel like when it comes to talking about issues like suicide, depression, anxiety, and things like that, they don't get taken too seriously, because people feel like, whenever you talk about mental illnesses like anxiety and depression, people are like, because it usually happens to people like in high school and like early college, and they're like, oh, they're just stressed out, it's just like, they're gonna get over it, like they were saying. But it's like, they're not recognized, and that they just get like shunned away, and then it's like time, it gets worse and worse and worse, and then eventually that leads to suicide. And they do that because they feel alone, they're not getting help because no one's really listening to them. And even if no one listens to them, they like, I feel like when it, like from a spiritist perspective, you could talk to, like go to your center and talk to someone there, because you're always being heard there. Or go and talk to your guardian angel, or go and talk to just pray. And then you'll always be like, you'll feel like you're always heard. But like, it's good to, like Nalu was saying, to always ask if someone's okay, and to make sure, because like usually when people are like thinking of suicide, they don't go ahead and like tell everyone, oh, I'm probably gonna kill myself, because that's not something that, they don't think anyone's gonna listen, they don't think anyone's gonna take them seriously. So it's something that we have to kind of like make sure and realize that no one's just gonna like look like they're gonna kill themselves, because they're gonna act normal, look normal, and do everything that's normal, but inside they're hurting. We have to realize that some people are like hiding emotions.
And before you go, also just you guys just keep thinking of like specific actions that we could do, such as like Noah was saying, like asking, are you okay? Like having like an are you okay day, or even just saying that, starting it in your center, and what your center can do, what your youth group at your center can do to help. What can we do in our centers to help other people and help ourselves?
I think the first you're not committing suicide. You commit a felony, you kill someone that's committing a crime. I think that we should change it to life of suicide, because you're done. You're not committing anything else after that. And I think that as youth, our friends, they come to us, they don't go to the woods. Very few go to the woods. And once they do, get discouraged, get made fun of, get even more depressed out of it sometimes. I think that us as youth, we should try our best to be the ones that they should. I know that most of my friends that are suicidal, that do hurt themselves, come to me for those things. And what I did, and I think most of us should do, is us, as the responsible friends, as the ones who understand what's going to happen to them, is go to an adult and tell them. In my case, I went to my counselor that also took care of my friend. And my counselor did her best to explain to my friend's parents what was going on. She got help. She was not judged. She's better now. She's an activist now. And I think that's what we should do. We should be the ones that share that. But we should also make sure that the person understands that we're not betraying them. Because the first reaction that I got was, you told on me. You went and told my secret. I think that we should look at them and say, if you are trying to commit suicide, I want you to know one thing. If you leave me, if you die, I will not be the same. And for that, I will tell you. I realize that you're confining me, but I love you too much to let you go. And I think that's the message that we need to put out there. Because like everyone is saying, we do get impacted by that. But most people that want to commit suicide don't understand that. They think that they don't matter to us. And as us, we should create our own. We have social media. We can easily create a space where people can talk about their pain, where people can go and say, I'm feeling suicidal, I have no friends. And we can all lend a helping hand.
So something we can do in our centers would be to properly educate or have a class where we go over what to do in those situations and what Spiritism says to do in those situations and study it so that we're better prepared for that and help others. Who has any other ideas on what we can do at our center? So that's another thing that we can do because I know at my center, for example, we're such a close group of individuals, and sometimes when someone new comes, you don't really want to accept them into your group that you've had for so long. But it's important to accept them because that person's there for a reason. They came to, and our center has so many youth, so they came to our center for a reason. So it's important to accept these people, even though you already have your group. We can always add people into our group.
I think that's something that we also should focus on is, of course, self-care, because where does that start with us? But I think that as youth, what we can also do is promote good things, good music, like rap. We all like rap. Why do we like rap? Because everyone else likes rap. So if we start promoting good music, good books, good things, we can all make that change. Because let's be honest, although it does start with us, we do have influence towards those things. As much as we have good mentors, we also have those little friends that like to come and tell us to do bad things. And of course, we can always focus on others. Like she's saying, we can accept someone new to our friend group. I know that I have some friends that spend a lot of time in their house, who knows what they're doing. But I think that as friends and as people, we should always see someone who we think is in pain, go to them and be like, hey, look, there is this new song out, and there's a concert, you want to come and see with me? I think that we should all promote good things. And of course, ourselves do the good things that we are promoting. Listen to better music, read better books, and always come to someone if you need help. And I think that's what we need to put out there, because right now all we're putting is negativity and judgment. And many of us have that, and very few of us have the luckiness of having someone supporting you or having someone to guide you. And very few of us have the strength to allow our mentors to interfere and to guide us towards.
So what are some little things you guys can think of that we can do? Now we mentioned the Are You Okay Day, and we know we have so many things with social media, and like you just mentioned with music and books. And I know one time at our center, we went to another center and watched this movie. What was it? God and Mount Vernon. God's Not Dead. Yeah, we went to this other center and we had this movie night, and we watched a movie. So what are little things that we can do like that to help people, maybe invite new people to our center? So, Are You Okay Day, music, books, maybe movie nights. Any other ideas along the line that we can start at our own centers?
I think we could all think about a friend that may be not here with us today, and then reach out. Once you have your phone back at the lunch break, just give a call to some friend that you don't see a long time. Hey, are you okay today? And just ask, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an Are You Okay Day. You can just put that into your normal practice. And we can start that at our centers. And we do have movie nights, so yeah, movie nights are good.
I think that's something we can do is speak up and tell people, like, when it comes to certain situations, like she was saying how she went and told on her friend who was hurting, and I know that I had a personal situation where I felt alone, and I did hurt myself when I was 11 or 12. So it does affect. This affects a lot of people at a young age, and then afterward, people they told someone, they told an adult, and then I'm like, why am I doing this? There's people out there that care about me. And then my mom took me to the center, and she told everyone, she didn't tell everyone, she told people that needed to know, and they helped me. And I think that being in the center is helpful. So if we tell people little stories like this, that they'll be, they'll feel invited in, and they'll feel welcome, that everyone has a story to share, and that they'll kind of feel like even though everyone there is so different, everyone's allowed in, and kind of tell people stories of, like you were saying, oh, we do movie nights, and oh, we love having people there, and it's kind of making people feel invited and welcome.
So, can we sum up some of the things? So, saying, are you okay? It doesn't even have to be a day. Another thing that we mentioned before in the beginning is to have, to learn, to have maybe a class at the center, to learn, or a workshop, to learn exactly how to interact with these people and how to help and what exactly to say. Because we have to educate ourselves so that we can help others. So that's another thing we can do. Any other suggestions?
Some people said praying.
Praying, yeah, even praying, and that's a good thing that if we had a workshop at our center, we can learn all those things, and praying and all of the tips and stuff.
Making people feel welcome and they're a part of someone's life, your life, someone else's life, so that they don't feel as if they're not leaving anything behind, so that they know for a fact that someone cares about them. I think that's very important.
The agreement of action for Spiritist youth. So it's written, and we're going to go over it, and they've been writing, as we're talking, they've been putting it together, what we've been saying, and our ideas. So we're going to go over it, they're going to pull it up. We're going to go over it and read it together, and at during lunch at 12:30, if you guys think of anything else you want to add to it, or something you might want to change to it, add to it, a new idea that you just came up with, you can come back and then we can edit it. And then later in the day, it'll be an official printed document, and we'll all have the chance to sign it and follow the agreement.